CIG have recently been talking about the need to use toilets within Star Citizen. Yes, the game will have full bodily functions at some point. Okay, I get it, that was definitely a bit of a clickbait video title, yet it is based on the facts presented by CIG's development team. So that's one topic for this video. Another is the confusion surrounding the arrival of Pyro, Star Citizen's second star system. Is it going to arrive in 2022 or not? Well, that is very much a topic up for debate. Before we move on to that topic though, let's remain with the other sticky subject. The recent episode of Star Citizen Live discussed hygiene as well as all the bodily functions to go along with that. Okay, so I also realised that all of this is kind of difficult to take seriously, but it seems increasingly that CIG are very much focused on making a living life in space in all aspects. And yes, apparently at some point that does mean the ability to relieve yourself, although that won't be a mandatory requirement in terms of gameplay. What will be a bit more mandatory perhaps, at least in terms of the way characters react to you, is bodily hygiene. Now this isn't a brand new subject for Star Citizen, not by any means. It was first discussed back in 2015 in the Series 10 for the Chairman, discussed by Chris Roberts in fact. It was then followed up, I believe, a couple of times in 2018, and you can see clips to that linked in the video description. So far then, the concept of bodily hygiene within Star Citizen is a subject 7 years in the making. But how will it affect gameplay? Well, CIG have been very clear that it won't affect your capabilities of undertaking missions, it won't affect your combat prowess or your ability to be a successful pilot or bounty hunter. What it will impact, however, is your capabilities to interact with certain NPCs. CIG's claim then is that as you roam around the galaxy, as you roam around planet to planet, you'll become increasingly dirty. And if you don't shower, this will become very apparent, both in your appearance as well as in how characters within the game world react to you. In terms of appearance then, equipment, clothes and so on will become increasingly worn and increasingly grubby. In terms of NPC interactions, well, some may just simply comment on the fact that you smell a little bit unpleasant, others may well refuse service at stores. All of this then really does bring up the topic of how much detail is too much. CIG are pretty clear that they don't want to take this to the level of The Sims. Some viewers, however, may argue that CIG are getting dangerously close to this. In fact, they're very close to bringing the game into the arena of Second Life. This, of course, isn't necessarily a bad thing, it could actually be a very good thing, but it all hinges on the core gameplay elements. There's a few of these already in the game, but there are plenty more that are still to come. Improved mining, of course, is one of those, but so is the long-awaited salvaging. We've got a glimpse of that over the past month or so, after a long multi-year wait. But hopefully within the next quarter or so, something will hopefully at least be on the way for salvaging. Now, here's the thing. Regardless of which gameplay activity you find yourself involved with, it will always be underpinned by the game's survival mechanics. Star Citizen does indeed feature thirst and hunger meters. These have been in for quite a while, but over time they seem to be becoming ever more punitive. Over on the test server, the current patch 3.17 has thirst meters that completely deplete, resulting in death in just 2 hours of gameplay. Now, some people will of course feel that it's not especially difficult to have a drink or eat a bar of food, but that does depend on your circumstances. Popping off your helmet in space for a drink is probably not the smartest idea. Ultimately then, things such as thirst present a challenge when in hazardous environments. Whether that's a necessary or unnecessary challenge is certainly going to be a subject for debate. Personally, I think it's an unnecessary challenge, it really doesn't need to be there, but do let me know your thoughts on that in the comments section below. Now, moving on to the second subject of this video, Pyro, the second star system that at some point will be arriving in Star Citizen. But why am I bringing up this subject right now? Well, it seems that it could be somewhat tangentially related to the release of patch 3.17 onto the test server. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, I did try out the new patch content there onto the test server and had numerous problems. Most of this was streaming related, basically disconnects and other server related issues. Now, it turns out that some work has been done to server streaming for patch 3.17, at least according to the roadmap. Now here, if I'm being perfectly honest, it all starts to get a little ridiculous when we're talking about CIG's terminology and phrasing here. The bottom line is that players over on Reddit and the official Spectrum forums have noticed that the work done on server streaming, specifically server streaming and entity graph, has started to make some progress. Now they feel this is important because this work needs to be completed so that CIG can continue with the work on server meshing, another bunch of technology. What is server meshing, you may ask, and why is it important and relevant to this discussion? Well, within Star Citizen, at least in the future, the intent is that star systems will exist on different servers or at different instances. For players to have the ability to move between one star system and the next, they effectively will need to be able to move between one instance and the next, or between servers. Now, this is the function of server meshing. Now, to make things even more confusing, there's two versions of server meshing. The initial version called static server meshing, and then the future version called dynamic server meshing. Pyro will require the initial version static server meshing. So then, the current concerns from various quarters in the Star Citizen communities is just how fast is the progress being made on this particular technology. I'm probably starting to lose you at this point, this is dragging out a little bit, but do stick with me. All of that is the long way of saying that a huge amount of work is still needed before Pyro can even release. At least that's a concern from various quarters within the Star Citizen communities. And it does feel like a very valid concern. After all, the Star Citizen roadmap shows work on server meshing extending all the way up to the end of December 2022. Ultimately then, it's all pretty vague. CIG themselves on their live streams and videos seem pretty clear about saying Pyro is arriving this year, but it won't be the first time that it misses its intended release year. At the end of the day though, regardless of which way you cut it, regardless of whether it makes it this year or maybe next year, Pyro is a very important aspect of Star Citizen and is certainly a star system I'm very much looking forward to seeing. Do let me know your thoughts and feelings about all of this in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.